Welcome to a State of Mind studio. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I am delighted to be joined by David Badura. We are here to talk about your passion for football jerseys and football in general. David, you are sporting a Livingston top. We'll come back to that. We've got another 9 jerseys to look at, as well as some of the other work that you do with your various endeavours, all football related, I've got to say. Let's start with Livingston Football Club. These shows go worldwide, they go global. Can you imagine someone in Costa Rica tuning in to hear about Livingston? If so, how do you describe this football club and its potted past?
That's a good question, actually, one I didn't expect. But, well, I think you'd say it was a bit of a yo-yo club. Is that a thing these days? Obviously, I think we're still a relatively new club. So we were formed in '95 after being Ferranti Thistle, Meadowbank Thistle. So, well, young club, up and coming. We've been in administration 3 or 4 times. Lost track of that. But we've been in Europe. We got 3rd in our first season in the SPL back in 2001, which was incredible. Relatively young club with, I think, big ambitions. So we moved from Edinburgh through to Livingston, which was a massive thing at the time. But I think it's been a move that's been pretty successful, certainly in recent successes, with just missing out on the top 6 this season, and then the 2 seasons we were top 6 with arguably the lowest budget in the league. So I think we're fairly successful with a good team and good manager at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. When I think of Livingston, I do think back to that season you were talking about, 3rd in the league behind only Celtic and Rangers, the Jim Leishman effect, the League Cup, getting into Europe. But previous to that, the club were Meadowbank Thistle, and even before then, Ferranti Thistle. Now, what we're here to talk about is football jerseys. Are they types of jerseys a holy grail for a Livingston fan? There can't be many Meadowbank and Ferranti Thistle jerseys kicking about.
Nah, well, to be fair, there was always a sort of touchy subject when I was Ferranti to Meadowbank. We moving from Edinburgh to Livingston. A lot of fans sort of stayed in Edinburgh. They didn't want to travel. They sort of seen that as a very, very small scale of trying to buy success and have sort of backers back then. But trying to get a hold of a Meadowbank shirt these days is very difficult. There is a few, and there is a few collectors, but they don't make them. Well, they didn't make them many replicas back then, so there was never going to be many. They didn't change the strips either. So I think one of the collectors I know, he actually said one shirt they had for about 5 or 6 years or something. So that was quite crazy. But I've not seen many for sale, and the ones I have seen for sale are, I want to say silly money. It's probably £100 plus, but it's very difficult to get a hold of.
If you're watching this and you have Meadowbank Thistle jerseys or Ferranti Thistle shirts and you want to be on the show, let us know. David is a kit connoisseur. You're a football jersey aficionado, and we're going to look through not even the top 10, but 10 interesting jerseys that you've brought along today. We'll come back to the one you've got on your back, and we're going to start with this jersey here. I love when you've got a template which is worn by a few different clubs. I associate Olympus Sport with Dundee United. This is not a Dundee United jersey. Tell me a wee bit more about this.
So this is a Rustin and Diamonds shirt. Obviously, they don't exist anymore. And I was probably quite a lot of young guys at the time, grew up playing Football Manager, and I sort of just fully buy into everything that I do. And one of the things, obviously, if I'm managing Rustin and Diamonds, I think because I had the most amount of money, I went and bought a shirt later on after I sort of got back into Football Manager. And I put a tweet about like who's used this template before, and it came back. I think it was Plymouth, obviously Rustin and Diamonds, Scarborough, and Dundee United were the main ones, but I think there is a couple more. But this is their away shirt from, when was it? Is it 97, 98, I think, maybe? And I actually got the home shirt as well, just to sort of complement the set. But again, very difficult to get hold of because they're defunct now. I think they run under Rushden Athletic now, I think. Right. I had a big passion for games, and when you tie that games with shirts, it's, if you're looking for a specific shirt to get, I always think they've got to have some form of meaning behind them, and yeah, that just takes me back to my football manager days.
Football manager, I'm a wee bit older, so championship manager, but yeah, you become obsessed with these things. And what I love also about this jersey is the sponsor. And we were speaking earlier, some of the jerseys that are going to be on display today, the sponsor is an important part of the design, almost synonymous with the club. Dr. Martens, I think, sponsored West Ham United at one point as well, which was a cracking jersey. Pony was the kit manufacturer.
That's it.
We're going to see a few, because it's not just about Umbro and Buckta and Adidas, because, I mean, the one you're wearing just now, and we'll talk about this next, Russell Athletic. Yeah. But again, that was all part of Livingston, and they were based in Livingston, weren't they?
Yeah, that's right. And I remember going into the factory a couple of times, like looking at some of the stuff, but obviously, you know, your Nike, your Adidas, you know, all these massive companies, and it's like, who is Russell Athletic? And no one knew, but obviously I knew them through Livingston and doing some shirts, and I think when they went from Russell Athletic to sort of jerseys, that was I don't know the full story behind that, but when they sort of flipped to that, everyone was like, what's this? But yeah, I think like for Livingston, they'd always sort of been brought up in a community club, really promoting. I think it was the only sort of professional club in West Lothian at the time. Obviously quite a big thing, and they kept everything local, like Russell Athletic, so it sort of all tied in. It was quite cool.
Is red, white and blue traditionally the away colours? Are they being associated with the club's past? Because they've got a black kit, or they did last season, didn't they? Their away jersey.
Well, I think it's one of those ones that if you ask any Livingston fan, it's amber, it's black, it's yellow, it's orange, and what's our away colours? We're probably still trying to figure that out. It's changed that much, but well, one of the problems is our very first home kit was black, so it was to come away from the Meadowbank, who were obviously amber, and then further down the line we sort of switched to amber to have that break as it was from Meadowbank to Livingston. But to be honest, I don't know what our away colours are. I don't know where the red, white and blue came from. I think we've had black away kits, we've had more recently white, we've had a Barcelona type kit at one point, but I think if we look back at the kit histories, probably white and red would be one that sort of stuck out. I mean, I think even at one point when we're talking about kits and sponsors, etc., Intelligent Finance sponsored us at one point, and they were sort of purple, and the purple was meant to be the home kit because that's what they had sort of invested in and wanted, but that turned into be our away kit at the time. But we never had a purple kit, but it sort of fitted their brand at the time that got involved with Livingston. But that was when we got into the UEFA Cup as well, so it's quite a nice fit, and I quite like the purple one. I've got two of them actually, but the home kit that didn't go down too well because it was purple. We went white, and it was white, and people want to say salmon or orange. I don't know what the colour was, how it looked, but that was definitely different times. But yeah, the away kit, I hopefully will stick with something sort of white going forward, but I think we're the only club in probably the UK that changes it up as much as we do.
Undecided. You've explained that this jersey was as a result of your love for a computer game. Livingston are your club, but where did the interest in football jerseys begin for you?
Oh, where did it begin? I don't know. I don't think there was ever one moment where I thought, oh, I love football shirts. I think it was just like, I think it came from like interest through my friends that they sort of were into football shirts, because I mean I was probably like a lot of people, it's an old shirt, I'm just going to bin it and get rid of it, and it's gone, and wherever it's going, a charity shop, or it's went abroad, or it's been passed down to somebody else. To be fair, it's a tough question, but I don't know where it comes from. Obviously I grew up playing football, I was relatively good at it, but that's all my interest was playing football. It was never about the shirts, but I retired really young and tried to get back into it and couldn't really, but still wanted to have an association with, obviously, football. And one of my mates had collected some shirts, Richard, which I've done after extra time shirts with. And I was just like, oh, I love your collection. Like, oh, it's superb. But he never really sort of, I wouldn't say he went wild, he just sort of collected them, and he wouldn't call himself a collector, it was just, he loved football shirts. And it wasn't until then I was like, do you know what? I could get shirts, but I was always wary of, you can spend how much you want to spend, and it was always it would never be it would be a never ending game, and I just loved bright and colourful shirts. That was my big sort of thing, and then I sort of flipped to Livingston, again, maybe not as hard to get as Meadowbank, but they're certainly difficult. They became quite difficult to get, so I just thought, you know what, I just want something I like, and I just sort of spiralled through there. I think we maybe lockdown that pushed it a wee bit. We've got money that we're not spending on pretty much everything, I think it was, so I maybe spent a wee bit more than I should have, travelling to work, etc. That was all savings, and I'm saving there, it's gone on a shirt. I think a lot of people can relate to that, but there was never any one time it just clicked for me one time, and I thought, I want to have a wee collection.
You mentioned After Extra Time shirts. Tell us a wee bit more about that, how your involvement in After Extra Time shirts began, and exactly what is it?
So After Extra Time shirts, that was probably about 5 years ago now, and it was created by my friend Richard, and his thing was what to get shirts on the back of fans again at affordable prices, because prices were sort of creeping up and up and up, and I loved that. I loved the thought of it, and he never really mentioned it at the beginning, but it was probably like a couple of weeks down the line. He was like, "Oh, I've got this wee idea. What do you think?" And I was like, "I'd love to be on board." I was just like, "Do you want? I'll do your social media or whatever it was." So anyway, we sort of bought and sold shirts, and our big thing was try to build a community, trying to be positive online. You know, online can potentially be like, and we wanted to get fans shirts at affordable prices, because everyone was looking to make money and sort of charge more and more. So I got involved with the social media thing. It was quite a lot of Twitter, I think, at the time. I had maybe like 100 followers or whatever, and I just sort of seen a vision of maybe growing it into something, and I was just like, do you know what, I could do this. I'll do it, and I always believe in good karma. So if you do something pretty good, you might get it back. So I went beyond shirts. It wasn't just buying and selling shirts, it was promoting other people, promoting other businesses, other football businesses, whether it was down south, abroad, whether it was prints, whether it was an illustrator, whatever it was. I always wanted to build something that was people could connect to. And I just sort of grew arms and legs. I got to be honest, it turned into a full-time job, but wasn't earning really any money. But that wasn't what it was about for me. It was the community aspect, the helping people, like trying to make other people make money, which was quite a big thing. So After Extra Times was basically buying and sell football shirts, whether it was current, whether it was sort of older, and it just sort of went through there. But I built up a lot of contacts. I've seen some sort of accounts that were at our level, and they're 30, 40, 50,000 big, such as the Terrace Life, that are overtaking shops up and down the UK, stadium prints that do prints of the cool wee prints of stadiums. Who else we got? John Devlin, he done a football shirt book with all his illustrations, which he's top level for me, like absolutely superb. He's got 3 books out that are unbelievable. You should probably get him on. He's such a lovely guy, and unfortunately I couldn't speak at an event that I was putting on. But yeah, built up all these contacts, and it was just that thing that put a lot of trust into like football shirt collectors. And not that I was the sort of start of it, but it felt like it was the start of like a community, like the football shirt community. But obviously I've came away from that a wee bit now, and probably a wee bit behind on a lot of that. But I think there wasn't anything to belong to as a shirt collector, and made something that people could belong to, I think would be the best way of putting it.
I'm going to do this thing where, like, magicians somehow know the card that you've picked out, and they say, right, think about the card, and it's the ace of clubs, and they turn it round and it's the ace of clubs. Think about a player when you look at this jersey, and I'm going to tell you who it was. Hadji. Look at that. If you ever associate a jersey with a player, this is it. It takes us back. And again, what a tremendous template this was at the time, wasn't it, from Adidas?
Yeah. When you think of shirts, there's always the visual, but there's also the memories that it creates. But that was a huge template at the time. Quite a lot of nations had it, and clubs. I think even Kaiserslautern had it. Denmark had it, I think, maybe. But like, as we just sort of said, that Hadji, massive, but then the blonde hair that they all had when they were away at the final, which was just superb. But you probably don't really pick up on it, but there's obviously like some fading, which isn't really in modern shirts now. You get that sort of nice stuff behind it, and I'm always a big fan of. So my favourite shirt of all time is a Livingston shirt that's got the badge running through it, and it's just. I wish they made them like that now.
I know. see, when I'm looking at it as well, Adidas for me, the vintage Adidas is the trefoil badge, which they just refuse to put on football jerseys now for some strange reason. And it's 3 stripes down the sleeves and all that. This isn't any of these hallmarks of Adidas, yet it still pulls it off. It's still a classic design. I mean, what was it that made you, what drew you to this jersey? What made you want to purchase this and add it to your collection?
Oh, that's a good question. I like bright shirts, and I actually got quite a good deal on it, actually. And I was fascinated by the template and all the clubs and all the nations that had it. And I thought, do you know what? Hadji was obviously a massive thing, and I was like, do you know what? I think it was £40 I think I picked up for. Right. £45 delivered, and I thought, I can't pass it by, I want it. And I never realised the detailing through it. And I was like, wow, I've actually got an even better top than what I'd imagined. But that was probably the earliest tournament that I remember, and that visual with the memories it sort of provoked. I was just like, it needs to sit in my collection.
I love the neck. I mean, again, classic V-neck style, but with a wee twist because it's cut off down the bottom. And I often wonder, what can you do next? And a lot of the manufacturers go back to classic designs, recreate them, because, I mean, a lot of clubs are releasing 3 jerseys every pre-season. There comes a point where, if you're Celtic and you have green and white hoops, how often can you change that? And it's still a different jersey. But I'm looking at this, I do love that shading in the jersey, which, as you say, sadly, doesn't happen very often. No. You picked this up, you say, for £40-45. What do you think of some of these companies that are reproducing jerseys because some of the cost of the authentic replica jerseys is just too high these days?
So obviously, with a shirt collector, it's probably one of those things that might devalue people's collections, etc. But I always think it's a difficult one. I can see the arguments for it. I can see the arguments sort of against it. Where that's it needs to be affordable for people, in my opinion. Especially the way everything's going. Everything's expensive. And some people say it's only as much as what people are willing to pay, unfortunately, which whether you agree or disagree, I mean, it's kind of hard to step away. But I like I like going back to retro. There's more and more clubs doing it. It's becoming more and more of a trend. I like it, and anything that's more retro gets my vote all the time. Done at Livingston, we had a retro photo shoot with all the boys. I had a lot of fun trying on the shirts. We've brought that into the sort of current social media, and I would always encourage that. But if the cost is driving up, you can see. But then again, then you've got the fakes that are coming in that are getting better and better, which is obviously causing a lot of problems. So do you want something official replicated? Maybe. Nothing will beat the original, and it'll get harder and harder as time goes on. But yeah, you'll never beat the original. But there just seems to be so much going on, but you'll never beat the original.
And we move on to another Adidas design. And I've got to say this, before you tell me a wee bit more about this, where you got it, who it is, why it's special, I look at this Adidas logo. And as I was saying before, you had the classic trefoil. You then had the Adidas equipment symbol, which is on the neck of this. And then just the Adidas lowercase font, which inspired the Oasis logo, by the way. They just turned it italic. And I think of the classic Newcastle jerseys of the 90s under Keegan, with the likes of Asprilla and Ginola and Ferdinand, home and away with a Nuki Brun sponsor.
Massive sponsor.
The away jersey was the Barcelona colours, but it was hoops. Loved that. This is another classic. 3 stripes across the middle. Does that extend along the back? No, it doesnn't.
Just at the front.
But tell us a wee bit more about this. And Crunch Chips, who are they?
I never really worked out who Crunch Chips are, but obviously they were Kaiserslautern sponsor at the time. But so me and a few of the guys actually turned out all Livingston fans. We went over to Mainz and we're like, we want to go to Kaiserslautern. I think they were in the regional league at the time. Obviously they'd won the league back in 97, 98, I think it was. I think this shirt's maybe a couple of years before that. And we're like, we'll just go. We went to 4 games, I think it was, and we all just said, look, if we're going over to Germany and we're going to go to Mainz, we need to get a retro shirt to go on the trip. So all the guys got Kaiserslautern shirts for the trip, and this is obviously the one that I sort of chose. And all the guys varied for, I think it was like 92 up to like 2005 or whatever it was. So we sort of turned our trip, which is basically football and beer. That was basically the trip. And I picked this up, and probably a bigger size, what is it? Double XL it was, so I had to get something that fitted, and luckily that was that. But I actually got so I think my mate, he had the home version of that, but with the Crunch Chip sponsor, they're quite, you see it's a wee bit faded, but they're easy to peel off, like people don't wash them properly, etc, etc. So which they actually done a sponsorless version of this as well, which is quite cool, which you don't see much these days because the sponsors paid the money, they need to be on it. Great trip, loved the trip. We went back again since that, but we always had this trip to go back again, so I just wanted an old top, and I probably prefer away shirts to home ones, so I've always just went with an away top.
When I look at this here, again, yeah, you've got that shading, that pattern in the background, which looks like it's a crest. The collar's thick material. The jerseys were a lot baggier in the 90s as well. See, when you look at the players, it's almost like they're sprayed on. But there's a lot more weight to these jerseys back then as well, isn't there?
Well, that's probably a reason why they won't come back, because they are quite heavy, but obviously having to run about in it, be a bit sweaty, but do you know what? It served its purpose at the time. It was superb, and whether they're not going to go back to that, which is fair enough, it's always nice that you can appreciate it, and even if it's not playing in, even if it's just wearing.
Great memories.
Oh, I think every shirt should have a memory though.
So, another jersey, it's Livingston, and the first thing I can notice, that crest is different from this crest. So which came first?
This crest would have came first. This is 95, and this shirt is from 2001, 2002. So that was based on Deportivo, their home shirt at the time, and that was when we got into the Premiership for the first time, and we finished third. So for me, that's the memory it's associated with that shirt. But speaking of the badge, we actually shot our season ticket video not that long ago, and we actually went through the badges. Obviously, we've had a lot of changes, sort of Meadowbank to Livingston to they had a Latin saying at the bottom, I think it was, so you can see the Latin on the bottom. And I interviewed Jim Leishman, and he said that was one of the first things I done is we took away the Latin saying and we put West Lothian on it so it belonged to the people, and it was really inspiring to hear that, and you're like, oh, so it does, it says West Lothian, and that's why, and like he had it wasn't just connecting Livingston, it was Upall, it was Bathgate, it was West Calder, it was Broxburn, it was, you know, all these different types of places. I was like, oh, and that was where the community come from. But our badges, it's since changed, I think 3 or 4 times since then, so and with the current one, but it's interesting to see the changes over the years.
It is, and Jim always has a good line. He's a very motivational guy, is Jim Leishman. What I love about that crest as well, it's embroidered, David, and maybe I'm a traditionalist, but I love the embroidered crests, and I think we should bring them back. Over time, they're getting lost. I know that sometimes if you try to run a fair distance, it would be sore on the nips, if I can say that. But the embroidered badge always gets my vote. What's your take on that?
I'm a big fan of embroider. I think obviously you've got sublimation, you've got heat pressing these days, and you've got maybe a couple other variations, but a bit old school. Embroider should always be the winner for me. It's never going to fade off. It's never going to peel off. But when you're talking fine margins, I suppose, in modern day football, that extra weight with the threads, if that's a thing, it's probably an argument that they have against it. So, but I'm a big fan of embroider.
Absolutely. And jerseys, now correct me if I'm wrong, but that was part of the Russell Athletic group.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
How long did that last on a jersey?
Wasn't it long? I definitely know. So that season, we had this shirt and we had a white away shirt, but it was a continuation from the first division. And I think the only change was it had Livy on the collar, and then it went to LAFC. So they sort of stuck that, but that had Russell Athletic on it. And then the following season, we got into Europe. That was the Intelligent Finance, and that had jerseys. But I think that was the only 2 seasons that they sort of had that. But I can't even remember where they went after that. But I think they changed away for that not that long after. I think that was like a big thing where a lot of other manufacturers were coming involved, but I can't remember. I'll need to look it up though.
And Motorola. Now, again, with the sponsor, it's one of these embossed types, so no sublimation. But that could be a nightmare with the continued washing of these jerseys, because a lot of the letters would fall off, wouldn't they?
Oh, well, I'm guilty of that. I mean, I used to wear my shirt to school, like out to play football, everything. And it was just literally a sponsorless shirt by the end of it. But obviously not washing it properly. But that's why it's quite rare to see a shirt, well, certainly this one, that's got the full sponsor on it. And again, when you're a late Livingston, you probably think it to Russell Athletic, but Motorola were huge at the time as well, which sort of reflected from, I think it was it Mitsubishi, then it went to Motorola for a good number of years, and it was all over the stand, so they were a massive part. But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest sponsors that you associate with Livingston.
Motorola were on the seats as well, weren't they?
Aye, yeah. It probably wasn't even until recently that they came off, to be fair, but that's what happened. The big companies sponsor football clubs, and after the sort of deal ended, that it was quite hard to replace that, and they just stayed. There's been loads of clubs like that.
Free advertising for about 10 years.
Are they still on the go now? I don't know.
I don't think they make phones any longer. I did have a Motorola mobile phone.
A flip phone.
That's it, yeah. Interesting. Another cracking jersey. You're busy, you're creative, you love football, not only football jerseys, but football prints. Tell us a wee bit more about sports clubs' maps. You've got a few examples here. You've got a presence online. Where did this idea begin? Where did it develop? Was it a lockdown project?
Yeah, so obviously we were all sort of locked down for a good while. Not much to do, not really going out. I remember recording my steps. I'd done about 100 per day, which was really bad. And I dipped in and out using sort of design software, and I've always had a sort of interest in maps. And I don't know what came over me, and I thought, football maps, like that'd be quite a cool thing. Like, I'll see if someone will design one for me. And I approached a couple of designers, and they're like, it'll be time consuming. And I didn't want to do that. And I was like, cool, I can do it. Why don't I do it? So I think the very first one I done was Scotland. And it was just like, well, I know all the teams, I know where it is. Let me just grab the Scotland file, chuck it in and see what happens. And it sort of grew arms and legs for there. So put the Scotland, because I'm a big ground hopper. So to go place to place, I've got Elgin to do the 42, that was a big thing. So I've still not done that. And I was like, well, can pin them out. That's the whole thing. How many can I fit on this wee map? I'll just see how it looks, and picked a font, picked something that worked, and then I done Scotland, and I showed it to. I'm in a part of a ground hopping group in Scotland that are pretty big. I think there's about 100 members in it, and I said, "What do you think, guys?" And they're like, "Oh, that's superb. Can you buy them?" I was like, "No, I'm just designing them." "No, why don't? Well, I'll buy one." I was like, "Oh, okay." right, leave it with me. And then I spoke to a printer, and then it just grew arms and legs for there. So went for Scotland, which I knew, and then I just went for cities to countries to leagues to titles that clubs had won. We done a Norwich one, a Rangers one, and then it was just like, where else can we go? I updated them for the current season, for the season before, and then before I knew it, I had about 120 designs. So it was fun, and whilst designing them was good fun, one other thing was reading up on it. Who's been promoted, who's been relegated. Oh, can he put Kaiserslautern? They're not in it. What? How are they out the league? Like it was just like all the sort of time and effort that went into it. There was a lot of research and where the teams were. That's not where that team is. They're actually playing over there because their stadium's not up to right. Okay, like, and it just sort of grew arms and legs. But people want to be like, I'll keep you right. And even like, I think there was we'd done a Portuguese one, and they were like, that's not the name of the team. And I was like, aye, it is. That's what it says. And like, no, they had a big fallout. I was like, all right, okay. Now I'm interested. And then I can't. I wish I could remember what the team was, but it was that thing that someone had bought them over and called it. But the fans, like, I would relate it to Livingston. It's the Tony Macaroni Arena or the Spaghetti had, but actually it's Ammonvale, and that was the sort of what the fans referred to it. And folk were like, I love that. Like, you'll just listen to the fans. I was like, everyone should listen to the fans. Like, they're the backing of so many foundations. Like, of course I am. So I just sort of added one. I was adding like 3 or 4 a week, and I just got. It was fun. I was genuinely, I loved it, and it kept me busy. And well, there's nothing else you could do at lockdown.
And again, the football network. You start to meet more and more people as well. Football and art, I think, go hand in hand, and the art of the football kit leads us onto this interesting design here. Now, Hummel, I associate Hummel with things like Denmark in the 1986 World Cup, maybe Coventry City, 1987, winning the FA Cup.
Same template.
Same template. And they beat Spurs, who I think were also wearing Hummel at that time.
I think you might be
as
right.
well.
Aye.
The famous chevrons. Tell us a wee bit about this jersey, because this was a sensation when it was released, wasn't it?
Yeah, so people always ask what you collect, and obviously fundamentally it's Livingston, but I like bright shirts. A lot of my collection is bright, and I love the colours, and it was just one of those things, obviously building a community on sort of Twitter, even to the point where I think we had Forward Madison invite us to their sort of launch event at one point, and Volendam as well. They popped into our DMs and said, oh, this is our kit launch, can you promote it for us, etc, etc. So like, it was nice like that, and there's not many kits that are light blue and pink about, and Forward Madison are quite a small team, but it just popped, and it was all about the marketing. They had, well, I think they probably still do, a really small media team. I think it was volunteers at one point, and they'd sort of labelled it the drip kit. Like, that was the sort of whole thing, and it was just something different that hadn't been on the market, and because they were sort of a low-level team, but their colours are always vibrant. They've got whites, pinks, blues. I think they've even got a wee bit of yellow now, and it's just different, and people went daft for it. And I think that was a pre-release, but you couldn't get it in the UK. You had to order it from America. So I think I was actually quite fortunate that one of our followers was like, I'm going to put an order in. I'm like, superb. Can I trust you with my money? And I thought, she just went straight in. I was like, look, there's my money. If you could order that, that'd be great. So I think it ended up costing me about £96, I think it was, after the postage. But I love it. I've lost a lot of weight since then, but I think it was a 3XL, 3XL that I had it, and I just love it. It's just because it pops. I just love it, and it's different.
It's instant, and again, it does have the traditional chevrons on the sleeves as well. But yeah, it's quite daring, but I think they pulled it off. The drip jersey, I like it. It's
superb, but again, when you're speaking about the badge and embroidered, it's all obviously sublimated. A lot of clubs are going down that route. They can obviously offer a wee bit more with sort of the designs and that, which I obviously get, but nothing beats a badge,
Nothing beats the badge. And we're on to another shirt. And I would need to say two things. Firstly, Lotto. So that is vintage as far as I'm concerned. And also, I see that design and I just think Croatia. So tell us a wee bit about this jersey, how rare it is and what you had to do to get your hands on it.
Well, the checkers there's always associated with Croatia, aren't they? But it's just weird that it's all different colours. This is the Mines Carnival shirt for 2019. Every year they have a carnival shirt to celebrate their local carnival, and I would say this is the best one they've had personally. But I don't know if you can see it, but there's obviously some really nice detailing through the shirt. Again, as I said, I like bright shirts. I like them popping and going to Mines. When we went over the first time, a guy was wearing one. I was like, "Where can you get it?" And he was just like, "Oh, there's only a few sold." And I was like, "Oh, come on, where can I buy it?" He's like, "No, you can't buy it." I was just like, "Oh, if one ever came up, I would do whatever I could to buy it." And about a year, 14 months later, it came up on classic football shirts for £100. And they were all larges. I think, is it a large? XL, sorry. But I think a lot were smaller made. I was doing it the last couple £100 at the end of the month. I was like, if I didn't buy it, I'll never ever get the shirt. And I just thought, I'll just buy it. And I've never regretted it since. And people always ask me where I got it, where can I get one, and they are quite rare to get a hold of because I think they were limited numbers. I don't know why I've got like 1,111. I don't know why I've got that in my head or something like that. But they always do limited runs for these, and after I bought that, I think they made 10 available, maybe not even as many as that, and I've not seen one since, and that's been maybe 3-4 years now, and I always keep an eye out because I would get another one.
That'll be increased in value year on year as well, David. I mean, I know that you do it because you like the design specifically, but it must be refreshing to know if you've got about 100 jerseys that you've got a nice wee pension plan there as well. Does that ever come into your mind?
I'm a spender. I'm not a saver. So I think in terms of that, like an investment, depends what you get. There's obviously shirts that go up in value, go down in value, depending on what you get them, if you bulk sell them, whatever. But that's definitely something that I would say is an investment. If it's not for me, it might be for maybe my children, that I could give them. But I know guys that have got match worn shirts that keep going up in value, and there's more and more collectors coming into the scene now, and they're harder and harder to get. But for the purposes of me, I would say that it's an investment. You're going to get something back for your shirts, whether it's what you paid for or a wee bit more. I think if you went through the whole collection, I think I got about 200. I would probably get not far off of what I paid for each one, which would be good considering maybe potentially if we're talking inflation, cost of living, etc. But I'm telling myself it's an investment.
I love the collection that you brought into the studio today, but I've got to say, I don't know if it's the colours, the fact that this shouldn't work with the map, but it does. The collar is vintage football jersey porn, right? Tell us about this, and the fact that it's Le Coq Sportif. This is my favourite that you brought in today. Tell us a wee bit about it.
Well, I think that with the badge and the sponsor, I think a wee bit of embroidery there, but so this is the club Athletic Mineiro shirt from this season gone, 21-22. There was a big sort of massive sort of uproar with it. One of the designers, and I like seeing that, like local designers, local guys getting involved with clubs and designing something a wee bit different. And I mean, at first I thought it was a bit of a hoax because it's never really happened before. But yeah, obviously with having sports club maps, it just made sense to have a map shirt in the collection. And yeah, I mean, the wait was about 6 or 7 months, I think it was at the time. I think I ended up paying, I think it was like maybe £88 or something, which is obviously quite a lot of money. But all the shirt collectors sort of got it. Everyone sort of loved it. Like you're saying, it's the favourite that I've brought. Like I love it, obviously. And just the sort of backstory of the designer and stuff, and seeing how it was sort of created was just superb. And it coming from halfway around the world. I just loved it, and I'm a big fan of it.
It is stunning. I mean, even the detail around the sleeve there. Obviously, I don't know what it says, but the detail is beautiful. And you see it along the bottom of the jersey as well. Your lovely maps would draw you towards it. But just even myself, loving football jerseys and classic designs, I love the cuffs that you get. I love that. That's a 1980s touch. That everything about it, the gold, it's just class. So thanks for sharing this one with us today. I doubt I'll ever own one. How rare are they?
Well, I think so. I think they done like a pre-order, so there was quite a lot. Whether that was a limited run, I don't know, but I think there's quite a lot of them out there. I mean, I think we've been the 6-7 month wait. I actually think they went over the demand. Like, if someone wanted to buy something, you're not going to tell them no, basically, if they're spending obviously quite a lot of money. But again, it's one of those things that if you ask the fans, like, they'll tell you what they like, and if you do it, like as you say, you've got like an old sponsor, you've got like a badge that everyone will like, you've got the collar, you've got like the sort of minor details that people maybe don't actually realise, but it's quite a big thing. And like, just listen to fans. Like, if you listen to what they want, and if you give them, they'll buy. I mean, it's very, very simple, but clubs want to dictate to people what they think's good, and it's like, see people paying the money, that's who you want to sort of get involved with.
I'll give you an example. Now, the engagement is key, I believe, because you're going to try and sell a product to a group of people. So find out what they like. And one of the manufacturers of Celtic jerseys was New Balance, and obviously they were doing a lot of research in the American markets, and they had an idea that it would be a good idea to have a sports top that was incorporating the colour blue. So when you're trying to sell that to Celtic, and Celtic are actually listening to it, all it takes is for a fan to say, that's maybe not a good idea. But that was on the table. That was on the table between the manufacturer and the club, and it took the fans to say, actually, that's not a great idea. So fan engagement is key when it comes to football jerseys, and this, my friend, is an absolute classic.
But see, speaking about the Celtic top, was it People's?
Yes.
Where they had was it the red, white and blue?
People's Ford.
Aye, they had it in that in one of their shirts. I mean, whether you like it or not, it's just like it's got red, white and blue in it. Like, know your audience.
Exactly, know your audience. That away jersey has become something of a cult classic. It's the one with the zigzags, red, white and blue. But as you say, it was a terrible decision at the time. This jersey here reminds me of football teams that became synonymous with their sponsors. And Ajax were one of those sides. So Fiorucci for Inter Milan, for example, and ABN AMRO for Ajax Amsterdam. Again, it's part of the design. It's sublimation ink on the jersey. The classic Ajax, but also at the time, a classic Umbro collar, because I think Celtic also had that about 96, 97. Embroidered crests. Tell us a wee bit about this Ajax jersey.
Oh, to be fair, I mean, as much as I don't mind spending a wee bit of money on shirts, this was just one I just wanted to get the classic red and white Ajax top, and this came up. I think it was like £60 or something. I thought I need a shirt, but I actually read up a wee bit in the badge, and it was quite interesting. So my first trip abroad was to Ajax. So we went to Ajax Volendam, which had Maxwell, Van der Vaart, Ibrahimovic, all these sort of really good players. I think I was like 17 or 18 at the time. Went over, loved it, like great experience going to Amsterdam, as you can imagine. And I thought, I just want a shirt and I'll just get involved in it. And a 90s shirt, classic. Like I said, I like the away shirts, but they were going a wee bit more expensive. Some of the green numbers that they had, and I just wanted something with the badge. It just like pops out, and again, you've got the pattern through it, which is superb. And as you say, like it's the relatable sponsor.
It's a classic. And you're talking about Ajax away jerseys. They had a design similar to this in the 80s. Look that one up. It was about 89, where it had the red and the blue. That's become a bit of a cult classic as well.
If I could get my hands on one, I would get it, but I got offered one for about £250. I regret it now. But if someone offered me a shirt that shirt for £250 again. I just snap their hand off and buy it because it's superb. I'm a big fan of that. But
It's a classic.
yeah, I
It's an
regret it.
absolute classic. They've got a very simple design here with this band down the front, right? But if you see that design, white, red, and white, you think Ajax. It's like, black and blue, vertical stripes, you think Inter Milan, green and white hoops, Celtic, and they've managed to do that. But when I look at this, I do think a young Ibrahimovic, who obviously was just finding his feet as a young player, and he's still playing to this day as well. So
It's crazy.
it is incredible, but interesting when you start digging into the background of the crests and all that as well. So once you get a jersey, you really buy into it, don't you? You find out about the history of the club, the jersey, the sponsor.
Well, so basically the lines all represent different things. I think there's like 13 lines on it, and it's like you'd proper have to read into it to be like, wow, this is fascinating. And if you're buying a shirt, you need to know what you're buying. And every shirt should have a story, and I'm just a big fan. I think maybe first things for me, going to your first trip or going away, like just sort of you can relate to. As I say, we got the championship manager, the first team you managed, like going away on your first abroad, which was Ajax. I'm big into that.
We're on to our final jersey. It has been some collection, I've got to say. A great journey. This, have we left one of the most interesting to last? Explain why there's a rave on my football jersey here.
Well, it's Ibiza. So, again, if you're relating something to a football shirt, Ibiza, you've got the DJ music. I actually came into this quite late, and it was pretty much all sold out when I sort of came, and I never really buy them through official sites in terms of Nike, Adidas, in this instance, Hummel. It was all sold out, and again, I like bright shirts. I like the sort of, when it pops, you probably see the blue and the pink theme a wee bit. And I just loved it. It was different for me. Like, when was the last time you seen a DJ on a shirt? Probably never. But again, when you're younger and you're going to these places.
The last time I seen a DJ on a shirt was when Fatboy Slim sponsored Brighton and Hove Albion.
Oh, right enough. But I think that was just their name, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Aye. Well, their brand. But it just stuck out, and again, it's another Hummel one in my collection. Whether it fits me or not, I don't know. But obviously, for Ibiza, I just love how it looks.
First time today, we're going to have to twist this because the back of it as well is a quality part of the design. So you see the island there as well.
That's classy.
It's beautifully done. Again, they stick to the chevrons on the sleeves as they did with the previous example. Hummel, for me, they're one of the classic brands, but they've come back and they're still doing great designs. There's been a lot of brands over the years that have fallen by the wayside. We went down to London to speak to Meba recently, which were one of my favourites on the old Barcelona jerseys.
Barcelona, yeah.
But things like Bukta, where is Bukta these days? There's a few that have just fallen by the wayside. Dundee United won the Scottish Cup in '94, 1-0 Brewster, and their jersey was made by Loki or Lokai. I mean, for me, when I look back through the history books, I often wonder what happened to these Spall. There was another one.
Where did they go?
Where did they go?
That's class.
And I'd love a Neri to come back, the Italian ones that used to do the Roma and AC Milan, and beautiful kit manufacturers. We've obviously got a shared interest in football and football jerseys. There is a football kit con, which you devised, you created. Tell us a wee bit about that and how that has gone so far for you.
No, a football kit con. So that was meant to be a good 3 years ago. Obviously, with the pandemic, that got pushed back. But it actually came from, we went up to Strathspey Thistle for Strathspey Thistle against Inverness Cali in a pre-season friendly, which was, obviously, I'm from just outside Edinburgh, so it was a 3.5, 4 hour journey, and what sort of talk about, and maybe football or football shirts or whatever, and it just sort of came up in conversation of, why don't we do like a football shirt event? And had a notepad, a pen, scribbled it all down. What do we want? What can we have? And I just sort of went for there. So that one thing led to another. Obviously, I had quite a lot of contacts in the football shirt world. I know a lot of sort of big people, so our whole event was changed. It was when it was finished, but on the original lineup we had Nutmeg, who was going to do so is it Dan from Nutmeg was going to do Michael Stewart, so he was going to come and talk about his shirts that he played in with Hibs, Hearts and Man United. We had John Devlin, he was going to come and talk about his illustrations in his book that he'd done. Obviously he was like the sort of first guy to do something like that sort of came about on Twitter. Obviously there was myself that was going to talk about how it came about, what we'd done. And we had Football Nation that were going to come, so that's a teamwear company that are based in Edinburgh. And we had that spin of what does it go from speaking to a club, what would happen during the process of a teamwear, how they choose the kits, what happens, like what's the timescales, etc., etc. They were coming, and who was the other one we had? We had somebody else. Scott Struthers, he's the UEFA delegate for Scotland, so it turns out he's been everywhere in the world. I thought like there's a place he's not been, and he actually came to the event, but he was talking about the gifts that he got from clubs all over Europe. It was incredible, his collection, all personalised, some signed, like just unbelievable what he got when he went to, he done like stadium inspections, etc., etc. So he had a really cool story to tell, which thankfully was able to make the new event. And yeah, so basically what we wanted is we wanted a networking event that we didn't think was up in Scotland. There's a few things down in England, not that we wanted to replicate that, we just wanted something. So basically it was, let's just have a big networking event and we'll just get people along and we'll just chat, and we'll have like shirts on show. And so basically it was just going to be a massive haul. I think we ended up being 600 shirts, and we rotated them every 45 minutes so we could get more shirts. Because the thing is, what we wanted is when people walk around the room, they've seen everything, whether they stop and chat and have a discussion. Obviously that was what encouraged, have a beer, whatever, we bite to eat. It was like, well, how do we get people to walk around again? We just change the whole room, and we'll just, everyone, every 45 minutes, change their shirts, and it's another set of shirts that we can look through. And yeah, just like engagement, have football stalls that were there, have some games for a wee bit of interaction. And do you know what? I think we ended up being 160 people that came to the event. And we sold, I think it was like 450, but that was because the pandemic, people maybe forgot. There was people flying from all over Europe. Obviously flights were a bit of problematic still, etc., etc. So there's probably a lot of that. But everyone seemed to have fun, everyone chatted, and one of my mates came up and was like, oh, I'm so glad I came. I was like, well, why wouldn't you come? He was just, well, I'll come and support you. I was just going to come for 10, 15 minutes, have a wee wander around, and then go home again. And then he was just like, I just stayed for the full 4 hours because I just loved being amongst it all. And we ran a football shirt World Cup. So we had 32 people that were in their favourite shirt. Again, that was something that we wanted to encourage, people coming in their favourite shirt. Incredible. And they all got a number, and it was always like we had a host, James Gardner, and it was a knockout competition which created loads of like good fun, you know, for shirts. There was a Denmark shirt there was like a Borussia Dortmund shirt, there was a current shirt, like it was just superb, and it went down really well. We had yellow and red cards for a bit of banter, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. And when we had people say, oh, when you come to England, I was like, we're not coming to England, like we're going to keep it up in Scotland where we didn't get these sort of things. So the plan is to tour with it. I think next stop's going to be Glasgow, and have something a wee bit different. We try and theme it around where we are. If we're in Edinburgh, sort of Hibs, Hearts, Livy, Glasgow, Rangers, Celtic, Queen's Park, etc. Then maybe like Dundee, Aberdeen, etc. So we want everyone to be able to have access to it and be able to come and see what we've got for the specific area that we're going to, and just to have a bit of fun and look at football shirts, go over memories, and I'll just have the opportunity to speak to somebody that's like-minded like you, eh?
Exactly, that's what we've done today. All your Social media links will be in the video description underneath. If, like David, you are a football jersey aficionado and you want to share your memories and your collection, then get involved. Let us know what you think of this collection in the comments field. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much, David Badura, for joining us
All right.
at a State of Mind studio.